Welcome to English Stories, a new way of English learning. Before Robin Hood became the legendary hero of Sherwood Forest, before his name was whispered in the dark corners of Nottingham and celebrated in the hearts of the poor, his story began quietly with the hopes and dreams of his mother. In a village on the edge of the great North Woods, Robin's mother, Eleanor, grew up surrounded by rolling green hills, rippling streams, and a rhythm of life ruled by the land and the seasons. Eleanor was the daughter of a respected farmer, known not only for her beauty but for her wisdom, her kindness to neighbors, and her gentle laugh that could lift a weary spirit. Her family, though not noble, was known throughout the region for their honesty and their willingness to help those who fell on lean times. Eleanor had many admirers, but her heart was won by William, a young man who rode into the village one autumn with the traveling lord's household. William was kind and strong, but he carried a noble secret. He was the youngest son of a minor knight who had lost his lands in a dispute with a local baron. Humbled, but not bitter, William worked hard and treated everyone with respect, never forgetting the lessons that true honor is found in deeds rather than in birthright. Eleanor's parents were at first wary. Noble blood sometimes brought noble trouble, but soon came to see William for the steadfast and honest soul he was. Their courtship was sweet and steady, filled with laughter under the old oak tree on the edge of the woods and long walks among spring wildflowers. When they married, it was a celebration for the whole village. Families gathered for days. There was music, feasting, and stories shared around the fire. Eleanor and William built a small but happy home at the woodland's edge. Hard work was a certainty, for William's skills as a woodsman and Eleanor's in growing herbs and caring for animals meant they lived simply but lacked for nothing of true value. Many neighbors came to the pair for advice, and their home was known as a place where no one in need was ever turned away. As the years passed, their love deepened. When prayers were finally answered and Eleanor found she was with child, the whole village rejoiced. Sons and daughters are gifts to any family, but there was something uniquely joyful in the arrival that winter of their first and only son. He was given the name Robin, inspired partly by the cheerful songbirds of the forest, but also for the bright future his parents hoped he would bring. Eleanor felt a deep contentment holding the baby in her arms, whispering stories of bravery and hope that she herself had heard as a child. William, too, felt pride and a quiet determination to raise his son with honesty, kindness, and courage, no matter what trials might come. The early years of Robin's life were woven with both happiness and the hardships that come to every family. Eleanor taught her son gentleness, respect for all living things, and the value of helping neighbors. William taught Robin to track deer through the woods, weave willow branches into useful baskets, and move with silent confidence among the ancient trees. The family's connection to nature, to the secrets of the forest and the promise of the land, was deep, and Robin grew up in the safety of love, learning as much from the birds and streams as from his parents' quiet wisdom. But peace in England was always precarious. Out beyond the borders of the village, lords and knights quarreled over land. Powerful men levied ever-increasing taxes, and the rule of law often meant little more than the whims of the wealthy and cruel. William's background as a knight's son did not protect him. When a new baron was appointed by the distant king to oversee their region, he demanded all villages pay new and heavy taxes. When the villagers protested that such demands would leave them hungry, the baron's answer was swift and merciless. A band of soldiers was sent to collect what coin and crops they could, taking anything of value along the way. William spoke up at the village meeting as a voice of reason, urging compassion and negotiation, but his words were met with threats. The baron declared that those unable to pay would lose their land and their freedom. Those were dark days for Eleanor and William. William's old ties to the knightly class marked him as a troublemaker. Soldiers watched their home, and the family's life became shadowed by suspicion and fear. Eleanor remained strong, guiding Robin with as much love and hope as she could muster, even as nights grew long with worry. It was in these early years, before Robin was old enough to fully understand the world's cruelty, that he began to learn the lessons of bravery and sacrifice that would shape his destiny. One cold winter, tragedy struck their small family. William, defending a neighbor against soldiers intent on taking the last of the village grain, was wounded. He was branded a rebel and outlaw by the baron's men. Robin, still a boy, watched as his father stood up to injustice and paid the price with exile and eventually his life. The pain of loss was sharp and deep, but Eleanor's strength sustained them both. "Your father stood for what was right," she told Robin. "He wanted a world where kindness is greater than fear and where the weak are protected from the powerful." With William gone, life became even harder for Eleanor and Robin. Yet Eleanor refused to let grief harden her heart. She continued to help neighbors whenever she could, teaching Robin that true courage is in doing what is right, especially when the world seems unfair. Unknown to Robin, these years would prepare him for his life's greatest purpose. He learned patience from watching his mother face hardship without bitterness, and he gained resilience from nights spent listening to her tell stories of ancient heroes who brought hope in dark times. As Robin grew, the tales of his father's quiet heroism and his mother's wisdom became the twin pillars of his character. He became strong and clever, observant and generous, always thinking first of others. By his late teens, the village had come to rely on him for guidance. But the memory of injustice, of what had happened to William and to so many families, burned in Robin's heart. He vowed to watch over his village and any poor soul in need. The seeds of the legend were sown years before Robin would ever pick up a bough or don his iconic green. As Robin grew from childhood into a strong and sharp-minded young man, the world around him was changing. The forests that had once been places of play and learning became his shelter and sanctuary, especially as the baron's new taxes and harsh punishments pushed more good people into poverty and desperation. Robin helped his mother as much as he could, working in the fields and hunting for food. But he could not stop thinking about fairness and the memory of his father's quiet stand against cruelty. In the evenings, Eleanor encouraged Robin to spend time in Sherwood Forest, not only for hunting, but also for connecting with the land that had always given their family both challenges and gifts. It was among those tall oaks and birches where shafts of sunlight painted the mossy ground and the air was filled with bird song that Robin found peace, strength, and the freedom to dream of a better world. Robin learned from everyone. He listened to the older hunters tell of the times when lords and commoners lived side by side in peace. He studied the ways of the wise women and the village healers who knew which herbs brought healing and which leaves could ease hunger. With every lesson, Robin's confidence and skill grew, and he cared deeply for every living thing in the woods. He often returned home carrying more than enough, always finding some way to quietly share with neighbors who had less. It became his habit to leave meat, berries, and even the rare coin on the doorsteps of the widows and the sick. These acts of quiet kindness were never spoken of, but the village knew who to thank, and Eleanor's heart swelled with pride for the son she was raising. As Robin reached his late teens, injustice in the village grew. Soldiers became more demanding, and honest folk lived in fear of losing their last bit of land, food, or freedom. One day, the Baron's men tried to seize the family's home completely, declaring their debts unpaid. Robin stood up in the town square, his words strong and clear, defending his mother's honor and the rights of all villagers. "You call us thieves for refusing to give you what little we have left," Robin told the Baron's steward. "But there is a greater theft in the cruelty you show to honest men and women." The soldiers could not tolerate such defiance. In retaliation, they tried to arrest Robin, who slipped from their grasp with a speed and cleverness that shocked all who watched. The people cheered quietly, while the soldiers vowed to find and punish him. Realizing that staying in the village would only bring more danger to his mother and neighbors, Robin said goodbye to Eleanor with a heavy but determined heart. "Mother, you have taught me to be strong and to stand for what is right, just as Father did," he said, embracing her tightly. "I will not forget your lessons." Tears slipped down Eleanor's cheeks, but her voice was calm as the river at dawn. "Go, Robin, and be a light for those in darkness. There is no power greater than doing what is right. Never forget." Carrying only what he could and draped in a simple green cloak, Robin vanished into Sherwood Forest. In the early days of his life as an outlaw, Robin faced many difficulties. He survived alone, sleeping in secret glens and living from the bounty of the woods. He honed his archery, practiced moving silently, and learned every secret track and hiding place among the ancient trees. The loneliness was fierce, but Robin's determination to do good never wavered. Gradually, news spread among the outcasts and desperate folk that someone was standing up to the Baron's men, stealing from the tax wagons, protecting travelers from cruel tolls, and ensuring the poorest always found enough to eat. It was not long before others began to seek Robin out, each bringing stories of loss but also hope for something better. The first of these was Little John, a gentle giant with a booming laugh and a sense of fairness as broad as his shoulders. Their first meeting became legend. A friendly fight to cross a narrow bridge ended in Robin being toppled into the water. Both men, instead of becoming enemies, found instant respect for one another and sealed an unbreakable friendship with hearty laughter. Little John joined Robin, bringing his deep knowledge of the woods and uncanny skill with a staff. One by one, others followed, while Scarlet, fiery and quick, escaped the wrath of greedy lords because he refused to accept injustice. Friar Tuck, round and jovial, joined after Robin caught him carrying secret messages and smuggling bread to prisoners. Each new companion brought unique gifts, some strength, some wisdom, others a sense of humor or a sharp eye for trouble. Together, they became the Merry Men, and Sherwood Forest became their home and fortress. Robin's leadership bound the group together. He made it clear that their cause was not greed, but justice. They would never take from the poor, nor harm any honest person. Their purpose was to rob from those who had more than they needed, especially the corrupt officials, cruel lords, and the baron's minions, and to return that wealth to the towns and villages suffering under harsh rule. They shared everything, trusting each other's honesty. Laughter and music became as important as food and shelter. Even on the most dangerous nights, one of the merry men would strum a lute, tell jokes, or lead a riddle game around the fire. Meanwhile, in the towns and manor houses, the tale of Robin Hood's kindness and bravery grew. Villagers spoke of mysterious gifts left at their doors: a sack of flour just before winter's first snow, a loaf of bread when hunger seemed certain, or coins slipped into the hands of mothers with too many mouths to feed. Some even whispered of Robin arriving in disguise to help those in need, blending among them at the harvest festival or market day. With every act, Robin's legend spread, and hope blossomed in the hearts of the oppressed. The Sheriff of Nottingham, appointed by the king to collect taxes and keep order, became Robin's greatest enemy. The sheriff saw Robin not as a hero, but as a threat to authority, an outlaw whose actions undermined the social order. Infuriated by Robin's growing popularity and repeated escapes, the sheriff devised every manner of trap to catch him. He sent squads of armed men into the woods, set spies among the villagers, and promised enormous rewards to anyone who would betray the outlaws. Yet the people always found ways to warn Robin, for their loyalty could not be bought with gold. Robin proved cunning as well as brave. Whenever the sheriff planned a trap, Robin turned it on its head. One famous time, the sheriff announced a great archery contest, suspecting that only Robin could win. Robin, disguised as a poor farmer, shot his arrow so straight that it split the previous bullseye down the middle and slipped away before the astonished guards could react. At another time, Robin and his men dressed as monks to rescue a group of innocent villagers imprisoned without cause. These escapades, half real and half legend, became cherished stories passed from parent to child. Through all these adventures, Robin never forgot his roots nor the lessons of his parents. He remained humble, sharing the leadership of the merry men and listening to each of their concerns. Eleanor, though she aged and her health waned, always knew in her heart that the stories reaching her small cottage were truly about her own son. Robin would sometimes visit her in secret, bringing news, comfort, and humble gifts. Those short hours with his mother renewed his spirit for the long battles ahead. Gradually, Robin's greatest allies, besides his loyal band, became the wise and courageous Lady Marian. Of noble birth and raised within the walls of Nottingham Castle, Marian longed for fairness and freedom almost as much as Robin did. She risked her safety to send messages to Robin, smuggled food and medicines to prisoners, and even joined the merry men in disguise when times were most desperate. The love that grew between Robin and Marian was built on mutual respect, shared values, and dreams of a better England. In each other, they found strength and hope when all seemed lost. Years passed, and the legend of Robin Hood continued to grow. Every adventure, each clever escape, every act of kindness, every blow struck against tyranny added to the story. Children across England played at being Robin and his merry men, dreaming of bravery and justice. The green forests of Sherwood whispered with stories, and even those who had never seen the outlaw believed in his promise that a single person, united with friends and guided by honor, could stand up to even the most powerful forces. Robin Hood teaches us that even one person, surrounded by friends who believe in a better future, can bring light to the darkest places. His legend is a timeless call to bravery and mercy that even now inspires all those who dream of a fairer world.